Hey, it's Sam, and I'm making this quick video today to talk about the transit of Mars. Currently, Mars is going through Sagittarius. He's going to be in Sagittarius until November 27th, and then he goes into Capricorn until January 5th of 2015. Now, this is really powerful for Mars because Mars is the planet of discipline, control, power, and he does really well in both Sagittarius and Capricorn. Now, when I say discipline, I mean that capacity to put into practice what we know to be right, which often makes us sacrifice our happiness in the moment. And this is really what true discipline is about. You often hear it said that Saturn is discipline, and we use these words kind of interchangeably, and Saturn is really about determination, which is to make a commitment to do something over and over again. Some people say that's discipline. Maybe it is, but it's really more determination. And discipline is the way I see it and the way I define it, and the way it relates to Mars is the strength to do what we know is right in the moment, rather than what's easier, which is Venus, because Venus is what feels good to us in the moment. Mars gives us the strength and the discipline to suffer for our principles in the moment, which means, for instance, as being opposite Venus, Venus wants to enjoy life, which is to eat food that tastes good, eat a lot of food, relax, be happy, make other people happy, just live for this kind of happiness. And Mars is where we say, okay, I want to be strong, and I want to be, powerful, which means usually you have to eat a little less food. You don't eat the food that necessarily tastes the best, but the food that makes you the strongest. You don't just compromise constantly to make others happy, but you have this line between your, strength and individuality and another person's needs, so you act in accordance with your own strength. This is what Mars is. He's the planet of strength. And true strength gives the strength to sacrifice in the moment for what we know is right. Get up early and do our spiritual practices, even though we might want to sleep a little longer naturally. This is discipline, the way I see it, at least the way I define it. Whether you use that word or not to mean discipline, that's the way I see it. The discipline and the strength and the personal strength and integrity to do what we know is right in the moment. This moment, right now, because each moment is a choice between what we know is right and what's going to make us happy. They're not always the same thing. In fact, many times they're completely opposite. What's going to make me happy in the moment might be something that's easier, something that's more comforting, something that's, let's say, to be around someone who is friendly, who is pleasant to me, or someone who is going to really help me get my goals met, or help me do something in a larger sense. When Mars is calling the shots, we go with the thing that we know is right, the thing that's going to really help advance whatever it is that we're doing, not the thing that necessarily makes us happy in the moment. Just like I said, like I use the example of getting up early and doing our spiritual practices, eating the right amount of food, working out, doing things to make us strong. It's not always the thing that makes us happy, at least in that moment. Often the happiest thing isn't, to get up and sacrifice and work hard for something. But that's what Mars is about. That fire of truth that says, yes, this is the right thing to do. Now, we're supposed to put those principles into action. That's why Mars is the planet of action. Because when we act in accordance with our principles, that's the right thing. But what we typically do is we don't act in accordance with our principles. We don't act. Instead, we argue about them, or we bring them out in some kind of thing. They become these strong opinions that we kind of inflict on others. And I kind of say, when Mars is powerful, we're willing to suffer for our principles, and when he's weak, we make others suffer for our principles. For instance, like in the form of our arguments and all that stuff. So Mars is really powerful until January 2015. So it's a great time for you to really act in accordance with your principles. He's really powerful in Sagittarius because it's about, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is where we define our principles. It's where we actually believe in something bigger than ourself. And in Sagittarius, Jupiter takes on a very kind of you might say, religious bent, but it's just what we believe in. This, not that. Very fiery. This is what I believe in, and I'm going to act in accordance with it. That's what Sagittarius is about. Very good for Mars energy. So his nature as being protective and destroying what's making us weak, because Mars is a tamasic planet, which is there to destroy what's making us weak, is aligned with a higher purpose. The higher purpose of, our principles and our teachings. So we're destroying what's making us weak, but in accordance with our principles. So this is why it's great for things like yoga and spiritual practices until November 27th. Then he goes into Capricorn. The reason Capricorn is so great for Mars is because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is also a tamasic planet. Capricorn is a tamasic sign, which has to do with also self-protection. And the reason it's exalted in Capricorn is because Capricorn gives us the awareness of time and of our mistakes and the need to learn from our past mistakes. And Mars is where we make a lot of mistakes because of that enthusiasm and passion. And in fact, even in Sagittarius, we may make some mistakes because we're impulsive. Mars is impulsive, and maybe impulsively defending those things that we think are right. We're aligned with what's right and the righteous path in Sagittarius, but we might, act a little impulsively at times. We need to be careful not to argue about what we think is right and instead do what we know is right. Don't argue about what you think is right. Do what you know is right. That's Mars. Sagittarius leads into Capricorn because Sagittarius is very abstract and Capricorn is very practical, and it shows the need to make a commitment to those structures in our life. And so when Mars is in Capricorn, it gives us the awareness of consequences and the need to be careful, to be cautious, so that we don't destroy the structures in our life. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is the planet of time and consequences and the need to learn from our mistakes. And this is the difference between, this is why Capricorn exalts Mars, because again, Mars is that tamasic energy, that protective tamasic energy in the moment, acting in accordance with our principles or not our principles. Again, we should be putting our principles into practice. We should be acting in accordance with our principles when Mars is powerful, but we're still taking action. Sometimes our actions aren't congruent with what we know to be right. And again, in Capricorn, we're aware of our past mistakes and we're willing to suffer in the moment to put those things into practice so that we can be stronger. And Saturn is that tamasic energy over a long period of time, where we take the mistakes of the past and project them into the future and make a commitment, and where we're determined to overcome our shortcomings. So from November 27th until early January 2015, it's a great time to really, again, introspect, reflect on the mistakes that we've made, due to our impulsive nature and whatnot. This is why when Mars is in Capricorn, we become very strategic about the things that we are, destroying and the things that we think are right. So it's a really good opportunity right now. Every couple years, Mars goes through this section of the zodiac, and it's a good time to reevaluate and reassess your relationship to personal strength, personal power, and to do it in an inspired and disciplined way, or inspired and determined way. Sagittarius are the things that inspire us, and Capricorn is the need to take those inspirations and make a deep commitment to them. So Mars will be aligned to put those inspirations into practice, and then Saturn, ruled Capricorn, will take those actions and deepen them into long-term commitments. So I hope this was helpful. Share it with others, and I hope this Mars transit really benefits you for the next year and a half or so.